Hey, everybody. Welcome to Brews Less Traveled. I am your craft beer loving host, Julie. It's so great to see you. We are here at our final virtual tasting in San Antonio for the month of January. It's been amazing exploring this city with all of you. And I have not been doing it alone. We have my wonderful co-host, Mike, here with me. Mike, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hi to everyone. All right. You can hear me okay? Yeah, welcome everybody. Please make sure you get your comments in here and all your questions. And we want to hear that chat rolling. Kit Kat says she can't hear me.
Oh, I hear you, Mike. I hear you
Not,
loud and clear.
all right, good. Well, as long as anyway, yeah, make sure you put everyone when you add your comments in the chat, please. Oh boy, off to a good start. Off to a good start.
I think it was a joke because how could Kit Kat say that if Kit Kat could not hear you?
Oh, that Kit Kat.
Oh, that Kit Kat.
They got me again.
I love it. All right. So we have made it to the last stop of our San Antonio road trip today. We are at Five Stones Artisan Brewery. And even though we're saying goodbye to the Alamo City, the local visitors bureau Visit San Antonio actually sent everybody some really fun booklets and dining guides and maps so that you can use these on your own San Antonio adventures in the future. And something that I noticed here on the downtown area map is something we've talked about most of the episodes, the Riverwalk, which sounds really cool. And you can even see some of the things we talked about exploring here. We have the Spanish Governor's Palace. We have the Highway 35, where you can go under and see the bats. And we have a market we're going to talk about in a little bit. So there is a lot going on in San Antonio. And I love that everyone has this map now, so you can use it whenever you decide to make a journey down there and check out this really cool beer city. Super fun.
Yeah. Texas road trip is in store for sure. I like this. And tonight we have a great guest as well. We have Iain Oldman from he's the content marketing associate right here at Brewvana, who happens to be a fellow beer lover from Texas. He's in Texas right now, so we'll be drinking today the Braunfelser Keller Pils and the Thump fruited and re-fermented IPA from Five Stones Artisan Brewery. You can see Five Stones here behind. There's that five.
Yes.
Right behind us there. That is the actual brewery. I can't wait. Good beers.
Coming to you live from the brew house. Maybe not. We can say that. Sure.
Look, you see the brewer is there. Well, there's two of them. They're
mannequin
twins.
Challenge.
They work together.
I love it. Yeah, I also love that the names of these two beers are so different. We have the Braunfelser and the Thump. And the Thump. So we have talked a lot this month about how you can really get a feel for the quality of a brewery from the lagers that they make. So I'm actually really excited to try this Keller Pils myself. How about you, Mike? What are you most excited to open?
Oh yeah, me too. I really like a good Keller Pils. And but I mean the other one is a watermelon IPA. So that's going to be one of those ones that I might get distracted by.
You might have to go back and forth.
I mean, I've had watermelon beers before. It's certainly a good beer flavor. So we'll see what this one's like. They both sound good and interesting. I agree with Kit Kat on that. Although I shouldn't be speaking to Kit Kat at this point. Like a fool.
Sure, blame Kit Kat for that. Yeah,
it was their fault.
Yeah. How about everybody else in the chat? What are you excited to try here? We have this Keller Pils and then this fruited IPA. So very different styles of beer. One's a lager, one's an ale, one's probably a bit more subtle, one's going to be a little bit more in your face. What are you excited for? Kit Kat's crying.
Oh no.
Cool. Scotty's ready for the watermelon Thump.
Indeed. Well, I tell you, let's I'm thirsty.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're going to open the Braunfelser Keller Pils first. So this beer clocks in at 4.2% ABV, and it has a rewind.
Start over. Start the whole thing over.
All right. And it has a refreshingly crisp IBU of 45. So let's do that. I'm excited for this one. And I love this can too.
All right.
Look at this guy on the
it's jumping out of the can. I like that.
With his vest. I don't even
know. That is the Braunfelser. I have my nice City Brew Tours glass today.
Ooh, I love that. For those who don't know, that's one of our sister companies, actually the original company that spawned Brewvana. Very cool.
There we go.
All right, this is pouring beautifully, huh?
It's
Oh,
got a nice
yeah.
slight haze to it, like a Keller Pils should have.
A nice like rich head on this one too. It surprises me. It's like very dense, like kind of fluffy, at least the one that I poured out. I like that.
Agreed. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone.
All right. Get a load of this.
Ooh, I like that. It's almost like a little bit of like citrus to me in the nose of it, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, it's got that nice bite on the finish. You said those IBUs are up there, and yeah, that's that's a really nice Pils. I like that very much.
Yeah, that's the nice
Very
thing
reminiscent of a nice German Keller Pils. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've really come to appreciate about a Pilsner as compared to something like an American lager is that bitterness that you get on the back. I love that. Super tasty. So this beer was named after the new Braunfelser neighborhood outside of San Antonio, which is where Five Stones is located. And this community is really neat. It's actually a neighborhood that has German roots. And so there's a lot of original German architecture from the 1800s. And if you recall from our second episode, Pils is the German kind of word. It's a German style Pilsner. They usually call it Pils. So it makes sense that this one is called a Pils as well. And thinking about New Braunfels, this neighborhood, I was curious to hear from the chat if anyone has been to Germany and what your favorite town was. I'd love to hear from you guys. I think there's some great places to visit in Germany, some great beer towns for sure. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I actually about 10 years ago we went on a tour of Germany and Austria, and Munich is such a cool town. And to be like, I was a tourist there and like went to the Hofbrauhaus and it's like, it's very touristy, but my God, was it fun.
So
it's
fun.
Just like filled with people, and they put you at the communal tables. So we became fast friends with the people who were at the table with us, and you have to drink out of a liter size steins.
It doesn't matter if they have any other sizes, you have to drink out of the liter size.
And the band is playing there, the traditional music, and it was a great time. I was like, why don't we live in this town? It was really cool.
Yeah.
We do have a question in the chat about the Keller Pils. Now, this particular Pils is called a Keller beer, right? Which translates to cellar beer. Keller beers originated in Bavaria, where Munich is, in the Middle Ages, where the beer would be brewed in the cold months and then it would be lagered in caves, creating a natural cellar for fermentation. So that's where the Keller Pils comes from.
Yeah, so it's also known for, sometimes it can be a little bit hazy, a little more gently carbonated. So even though it had that nice head as you're drinking it, it's not going to be quite so fizzy in your mouth as maybe some other Pilsners. And that's usually because they were traditionally served from a cask. So could be a kind of cask ale at times. And there are also two related styles. And these are called a Zwickel beer and a Zeugel beer, which I mentioned solely because they're fun to say. And these are typically weaker and darker and have a less hop. They're a little bit less hop forward than the traditional Keller beer like we have here.
Right. I had a couple of Zwickel beers in Austria, and really nice, really just so refreshing. Great daytime beer.
Yeah.
And like you said, Zeugel beer is just too fun.
Zeugel. Let's go around saying Zeugel. Zeugel
we
beer.
Just had a brewery that on one of our tours, Zeugel Brew in Portland.
Oh yeah.
And so it was just fun to say. I was saying it last night. My wife's like, "Don't say it like that on the beer and cheese."
They have like a Zeugel. They have like a big festival out in Portland called, I think, Zwickelmania or something like that. So wow, pretty fun stuff.
I don't think I've had a Zeugel beer.
I have not either, because I would remember if I'd had a Zeugel beer, because I probably would have said
yes, you definitely remember that.
I would remember that.
Very good. Well, let's learn a little bit more about this brewery. Five Stones Artisan Brewery was opened by homebrewer Seth Weatherly in 2016 after his family and friends convinced him to take his hobby to the next level.
Yep. As they so often do. Yes, you must. This beer is too good. They definitely started out really strong too. So they actually won a Great American Beer Festival medal in their first year, which I mean, that's pretty wild to me. And they also they were named the first ever startup. They won the first ever startup brewery challenge through Brewbound. I believe that same year too. So they really started out strong with some great beers and some great, they're really great in the industry. So these days they're known for making a lot of fruit forward beers, like the one we're going to try later. So I'm excited to taste that one, and also hosting some really fun community events as well.
Right. Well, you could tell making so far. I'm really excited about this brewery. And now that we got a little preview of Five Stones, let's check in on our top 10 things to do in San Antonio. Our first tip is to head to the historic Market Square for some great food, shopping, and live music. The pedestrian mall covers 3 city blocks and makes you feel like you're stepping into Mexico itself with the themed storefronts and decor. Head there for Cinco de Mayo or Dia de los Muertos for a real treat.
Yeah, this market
Dia
seems
de
really
los
cool.
Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos. Yes, it sounds really awesome. It looks amazing. Makes me want a Mexican lager. Any fans in the chat? Any recommendations of what Mexican lager I should try? It sounds like a great place. And our final thing to do in San Antonio, our final thing, teardrop, is to visit Hopscotch San Antonio. This is an interactive art museum where you don't just look at the art, you actually totally become it, which is really cool. So it's fully immersive. It's an art experience where you get to walk through and into and over and under the art itself. So there's a rainbow cave made from recycled bags. There's a light show where the art shines on your own body. So it's super cool, really neat. It's not a museum where you can't touch anything. It's a museum where you should touch everything and be part of everything. So that sounds really awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I definitely am going to head to San Antonio sometime soon, and I want to go to Austin as well. And they're close to each other, so
yeah,
that would be a good road trip.
It really would. Houston, last month's city, check that out as well. Yeah, there's some great beer towns in Texas, and we can make a whole Texas beer trip, Texas beercation. I love it. Are there bats? Says Scotty. Are there bats in the hopscotch? I wonder. Maybe the bats are part of the art. They land on you, I love it.
There you go. That would be great.
Right.
Bats tend not to do that though in the company of people. They have a very good sense of avoiding contact.
Yeah, definitely.
With humans.
All right, and now let's open our second beer. I feel like I just started this one. It's so good. I don't want to put it down, but I'm excited. Let's open our second beer and introduce our guests. So who's ready to open this Thump Fruited IPA?
Thump it up.
Oh,
and you can see through
thump it up.
I love my backdrop. You get our brewer in there.
We're sending you a clear beer this time, obviously. It's amazing.
Oh, it's the green screen is covered up like that.
I'll put it in front of you like that.
Does the watermelon? No, the watermelon still stands up.
Kit says release the monkey. Yes, Hops. Say goodbye to Hops. Hops is serving.
Oh, Hopsy.
Oh, Hopsy.
Well, Hops will go back to his regular job.
Yes,
carrying lunches.
All right. So as always, we like to go from the lightest flavor intensity to the strongest. Remember, not always lightest color to darkest color, but flavor. And I definitely had a feeling that this fruited IPA is going to be a party in your mouth. So we're doing that one second.
All right, let's give it a shot. My Brewvana glass.
Lovely. Same.
Which I have a harder time pouring in. So you saw how smooth I was with the other glass.
I'm surprised right off the bat by the color. I mean, I guess watermelon wouldn't lend that much color, but when I think of a fruited beer, I'm picturing something, more like red or pink or something like that. This looks pretty traditional color wise, but definitely doesn't smell quite traditional. Yep.
I'm getting more of the hoppy nose on that. Mm-hmm. Now you said the IBU is it's a little bit lower, huh? Oh no, I didn't say it. It's actually 26 IBUs and it's 6.3% alcohol, and it's re-fermented with watermelon and dry hopped with cashmere and citra for additional aroma. So there you go. The citra hops kind of rising up to the top there.
But yeah, you're right with the IBU for an IPA. That's pretty low for an IPA. And it does seem like they did add a lot of those hops there in the dry hopping after primary fermentation so that they get all of that aroma, but not so much of the bitterness. So it's not going to up the IBUs as much.
This is nice.
Yeah, Matt in the chat is liking it. Wasn't sure how they would go together, but they really do complement each other.
I agree with Kit Kat. Not a big watermelon smell, but I get the flavor.
I do too. Yeah.
I get it up front for sure.
So this beer is re-fermented, is what it says. And so what does that mean? Basically, it means that they add the fruit after the beer has already started to ferment. Sometimes it can be in a wooden cask, especially with like sours. With this one, probably it was in stainless steel. With IPAs, you don't really want to put them in wood. And it really adding the fruit is going to kind of wake the yeast up, give it some extra sugar to munch on, and also just create a really more complex flavor profile. So that's what they mean when they say a re-fermented IPA. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And I think they did a great job with it. It's just the balance is really nice between it's not overly fruity and it's not overly bitter. It's just right on.
It's it's like very light, very refreshing, something that you feel like you could drink a few of probably. It's not like it doesn't overwhelm you as much as I thought it might.
And there's almost at the finish gives a little bit of almost like a watermelon rind flavor, like almost like a slight with the bitterness. Yeah. Thank you. Pithy. Very pithy.
Yeah.
I gotta bring you around all the bars when I go, oh, this has a
I was whispered to your the word that you're looking for.
Pithiness.
The pithiness. Zoigle. All right. All right. Good. Without any further ado, let's welcome our guest for tonight. We have Brewvana's content marketing associate and our resident Texas resident. See what I did there? Iain Goldman. Oh. Welcome, Iain. We are happy to have you.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
We're having a blast.
We're having fun. We're just zoigling and pithing along here. All right.
You got you got the 5 stones there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love.
So I guess that.
Oh, go ahead. The thing I love about that brewery is, I don't know if you've seen this, but their breweries or their beers just like emit light. It's like turning a lamp on when you pour them into a glass. They're just so visually appealing.
Yeah. Look at these. Just put my little light.
I agree. They both have a similar color.
Yeah, they are very bright, very effervescent, beautiful.
Completely different flavors. Yeah. So what are you drinking tonight, Iain? Speaking of, what are we drinking?
I have a fellow San Antonio brewery that y'all went over, I believe, last week. Weathered Souls. I'm drinking their oak aged Helles, or Hille, as our German friends say. Yeah, it's good. It's solid for the style. It's really got that banana flavor, that sort of like banana bread. It's crisp, it's light. Good style. A little peppery, just a hint of pepper, which is good.
Yum. Do you get any of that like oakiness from it? I love that kind of oak, the flavor that oak can impart sometimes.
It's definitely it's more mild. I feel like it contributes more to the body almost, as far as sort of an implication of it being you know, in aged wood.
A little whisper of oak. That's great.
Love it.
Weathered Souls, they were a great brewery to work with. Really, really tasty beers. That one sounds really good too. So Iain, and also those in the chat, as always, feel free to ask any questions. We'll try to get to some as well while we're here. So Iain, what was the first beer that you drank, and how did that bring you to where you are today as the content associate here at Brewvana?
So I'm originally from Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains, a town called Harrisonburg. We're a big craft beer town, and it's because a bar opened up there back in like 2008, 2009, 2010, right around the time that a lot of craft breweries are really gaining more national popularity. So if I think back to like when that bar opened up and what beers were popular at that time, especially in the East Coast, I can't tell you exactly what it was, but I could probably narrow it down to like Heavy Seas Loose Cannon, right? Magic Cat number 9, Flying Dog is sort of nearby, so it's got to be one of those like 3 or 4 beers, you know.
That's a great start.
Yeah.
Days of like classic IPAs, right? Where like very sort of bitter, sort of hop forward. Yeah.
That's great. They all make
love the number 9.
Yeah, takes me back.
Yeah, like buying the old cardboard case of Magic Magic Nines. Those are hard to find these days.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big fan of the heavy sea stuff too. I remember that used to be one of my go-to breweries back in the day when there were maybe slightly less to choose from. I would always go to the heavy seas, and I still do sometimes. They make some really tasty stuff, kind of higher alcohol stuff too, which is fun. So how do you feel like kind of getting into craft beer when you did and where you did? How did that connect with kind of the journey that you took to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I always, my friends and I always were hanging out at that craft beer bar. I've got a lot of like all my friends are craft beer nerds. So I moved to Austin to work at a newspaper here. I was a journalist, and when I worked at the newspaper, I just sort of naturally picked up some brewery news and wrote a lot about brewery openings, sort of industry news in Austin. And that got me writing about craft beer, more connected to the scene here. So that's how I just sort of naturally got into to writing about craft beer in Texas, Austin specifically.
That's awesome. Yeah. So not just a journalist, but a beer journalist when you were there. So seems like a great gig for sure.
Yeah, there's nothing better than writing about beer.
Yeah.
There's no better assignment.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love it.
That's great. And you also you do some home brewing, yeah?
Yeah, I started ramping up in the past year. I think 2 years ago, my mom got me a homebrew kit for Christmas. So I've been brewing ever since. So I'll say, if you want to get into home brewing at all, those kits are a great way to do it. Brewvana has a homebrew kit where we have live instruction, and it's always the best way to get your foot in the door because no one wants to make a bad beer with their first batch.
Right.
Right.
It's just, you don't want to start off a hobby on the wrong foot. I did. So, but I mean, it's I've moved around from apartment to apartment. My setup isn't anything. I don't have like a small brewery in my laundry room. I just have it's a couple of buckets, a propane burner, and a big pot essentially. And I recently, my big investment last year was a chest freezer to do some temperature control. But really, if you're like me and you're moving around from apartment to apartment, you'd be surprised how much brewing you can get done with a couple buckets and a heat source.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's where everyone starts. When you hear all the origin stories of the brewers that we interview, it's all like brewing in my basement on like a propane burner. Like that's definitely not that unusual, and it really can be so approachable in that way too, just starting out small. And then as you perfect the craft and keep working, kind of graduating and evolving and trying some new equipment and things like that. But yeah, like Iain mentioned, those kits on Brewvana are awesome. I feel like when I started homebrewing in 2009, which is a very long time ago. And I remember just like finding some books at the homebrew supply store and like some YouTube videos. And that was like the extent of how I learned, but like to have a live instructor who can really like talk you through not just how to do it and what you're doing, but why you're doing it is super cool. So definitely second that recommendation for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
find. It's sort of hard to find homebrew information now. But I imagine back in 2009, God, you would have had to go to like an actual library for that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. I'll go to the card catalog. Home brewing. Where's the home brewing? All right. So go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say there's probably was books on it. Yeah, somewhere in the library. Yeah, it's such an old. Although in Prohibition, maybe they burned all the old brewing books.
That'd be so sad. So Iain, as Brewvana's, you're on your own. As Brewvana's content marketing associate, you actually wrote a blog for us all about visiting San Antonio. What do you think our members tuning in would find most surprising about the area?
Yeah, so I live up in Austin. Austin's about a 90-minute drive to San Antonio, so I've done it a couple times. It depends on if 35 is going to be cooperative or not.
If the bats are going to be in your way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's just on an interstate. That's I imagine every state has an interstate like this, but it's just one of those roads that's always under construction. So it's on a good day you'll get there in 90 minutes. So I was lucky to have some familiarity with it. But I think what would really surprise people about San Antonio is that it's massive, both in its footprint and in how many people there. I feel like San Antonio sort of plays fourth fiddle to Austin and Houston and Dallas in terms of sort of national recognition, but it's the seventh largest city by population in the United States. Like
Oh, wow.
it's not a developing town. It's this historic, deep-rooted town where so much of like Texas and Tejano culture comes out of that area, and it's big. So there's tons to do, and it has this sort of bridge between like centuries of Texas tradition to sort of like contemporary taste and modern trends. That's pretty cool, and is quite frankly hard to find in a lot of developing and emerging cities.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just picturing kind of how the Alamo looks, this very like old classic historic building, and then just like the modern downtown right there beside it and behind it, like that pretty much sums it up, I think.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. It's all the pictures of the Alamo do a pretty good job of hiding the fact that it's in between like four interstates, right?
Yeah, it's like the pyramids. If you see a photo of like the pyramids from the right angle, there's just like a downtown like metropolis out of the distance behind it. It's so strange.
Yeah, but even a place like the Pearl Brewing District. So for I think it was like over 100 years, Pearl Brewing was a massive sort of production plant for Lone Star beer or Pearl beer, which are both sort of like macro later lagers, sort of the national beer of Texas. But that plant closed in, I want to say it was the early 2000s, and they renovated it, and now it's like chic, awesome restaurants. It's got like charcuterie plates, stuff like like a nice
That's my favorite
open
food, charcuterie.
and like open air farmers markets. So they took this place that has it's a very historic district, and they refurbish it to be a really awesome spot to go on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. I love kind of repurposed buildings or converted buildings. You can do some really fun stuff with that. And like so many breweries do it too. You have churches or firehouses or things like that get turned into breweries. It's always really fun that has that story behind it, which you can't just like create from nothing,
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and just
Who
like
knows,
you said,
maybe. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
no, I was going to say up the road, you have where you are in Austin. Now that's a pretty standout beer city, huh? How would you compare maybe like do you think it's a bigger scene in San Antonio? Or because Austin's a little bit more known for some more craft breweries, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely more breweries in Austin. So I want to say, just by the last time I counted, and this was a handful of years ago, it was something like 60 some breweries in Austin,
Oh,
and that was a
wow.
handful of years
Mhm.
ago. So it's sure it's well over 70, well maybe in the 80 then, and it's to the point now where it seems like every brewery opening up is either focused on one style of beer, or it has like a gimmick almost, or not a gimmick, but like a theme, where that they're trying
Yeah.
to bring in a certain crowd. Like the last brewery I heard of that's opening in the Austin area is going to be like retro gaming themed, or sort of like video game nerd themed, so to
Nice.
bring in that crowd. San Antonio, despite it being a larger city, has a smaller beer scene in terms of just by sheer volume of breweries. But I feel like that's definitely allowed for these breweries to be more expressive, to take more chances. I feel like you can definitely take more chances on beers that may not appeal to everyone when you don't have the insane competition that breweries in Austin do.
That's wild. I mean, we have that same sort of thing in New York here, where we have, one of the most populous places in the country, and we have less than 40 breweries within the city limits, and so we're not considered a big beer town because you compare us to the other the other places with much smaller populations. Like you said, Austin or Boston is supposed to have more than 60, and about 10th the size of New York. So we're still working on it here.
Yeah, that's
Good
definitely
business.
surprising. Yeah. That's where to do it. Start opening all your breweries in New York. That's where you get the
I
demand.
guess, yeah, it's always a tough place to open any business. But
Yeah, it's so fun to find these cities like San Antonio, like I mentioned, I think last week, where maybe they don't have as many breweries, but they still have a really cool scene, and it's fun to open people's eyes to that for sure. So Iain, our members love to learn things they can do from the locals. So what would be, if you were traveling up the highway to San Antonio, what would be your ideal day off there?
Oh boy, like I said, San Antonio is a really big city, so don't try and do it all in one day.
So first have 2 days off, and then
Yeah, have 2 days off, exactly. So Five Stones that you're all drinking is based in New Braunfels. So I won't even start in San Antonio yet. I'll talk about New Braunfels first. New Braunfels is awesome. Like you said, it has these really unique German buildings. It's definitely one of those places where you can feel the German heritage like oozing out of the town. It's inescapable. There's great beer bars. There's beer bars that have like wide open patios, so you could sort of get that like beer garden feel to it. If you go in the summer, it's great to drink those like really light, crisp German beers in a patio, and then they have like tubing. There's these great rivers for tubing that you can sort of get on the river and just it cool down in the river. It's also just beautiful to drive around that area of Texas. It's called the Hill Country. So you go out west, there's Fredericksburg, that's wine country, and you can even go out east to this little town called Lockhart. That's got some cool stuff going on now. So that's one thing you can do. And then down in San Antonio, I heard you mention earlier the Riverwalk. Probably can't be said enough. The Riverwalk is awesome. It's beautiful. It's long, so you can do it in like a couple different sections and see something new every single time. There's restaurants where you can sit next to the river on a patio under some umbrellas and drink. They've got little boats, so you can do little river tours of San Antonio. It's just not something you'd expect in a city like San Antonio. It almost seems like something you stumble upon. Like it's something that's so well known throughout Texas, but every time you go there, it feels like a secret that you just found out about, which is hard to replicate. And actually on the southern end, I believe the southern end of the Riverwalk, you can go to the missions, which are just like breathtaking. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it definitely feels like important when you visit. It's very historical and a little off the beaten path, I guess, or not as popular as the Alamo. So you still get this like super rich history, this really important landmark to not just San Antonio, but Texas and sort of Southwest America. And there's definitely a little bit more room to breathe there, and you don't feel like you're in the middle. The Alamo can sort of feel like a postcard that you put down in like in the middle of downtown. So the World Heritage sites, the missions, definitely don't have that feeling at all. They're really fun to visit.
Yeah, that's really cool. That sounds like it would be really amazing to see for sure.
Absolutely.
All right.
So nice.
So
yeah,
Iain,
we gotta head down there.
Yeah, for sure. Check it out. So
yeah,
Iain,
can we stay at your house or?
Yeah, I got an inflatable mattress that we can make work.
I'm just gonna be floating on the river in San Antonio. I don't know about you guys. I'm just gonna float away.
Take
with
that
beer in my
inflatable
hand.
mattress and take a.
Yeah, take the mattress on there. That's a good idea.
There you go. I love it. A couple of German beers floating down the river on a mattress. That's my weekend. All right, Iain, as we wrap up here, it is time for our rapid fire questions. So your mission is to not think, just answer. Are you ready?
I'm excellent at not thinking, so I'm definitely ready for this. I'm probably the best at not thinking. Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, here we go. New Year's resolution.
Brew more.
Good one. If you could drink a beer with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
John Cleese.
Nice.
Oh yeah, he'd be a
Solid.
lot of fun. Iain, what's your spirit animal?
That would be a loon. Love loons, my favorite animal.
Nice. Can you make a loon sound interrupting the rapid fire question ask?
Oh, I'll try. Something like that.
Yes.
Something like that. They're hard to replicate. I don't think my vocal cords.
It's the strangest sound I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's the loons.
It's the lose. All right, beer style that's so last year.
Beer style. Honestly, and this is gonna piss a lot of people off. Pilsners. The crispy
Ooh,
boy beers.
Dave's
I
fighting
feel
words, huh?
yeah. Maybe it's because I'm in Texas and it's like such a dominant beer style here. But
That's what I've heard.
you could throw a rock and hit a pilsner here. You know.
There you go. Okay, that's fair. So what's the beer style of 2022?
Beer style of 2022. I would probably guess. Well, you're drinking what? You drank a Keller beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna see a lot of like historical styles get revived. I've already seen a oh gosh, I forget the style, but it's like a Coit beer, like a Dutch Coit beer. I've seen that get
Oh,
brewed. Yeah, it's just something not something you see a lot. So I think anything new that can be drawn up from the past, I think that's gonna
Yeah.
get more prominence this year.
I like that. That's like a good hot take because I feel like most people say like, oh, like, lagers and pilsners are the thing, but I feel like that's been going on for a little while and putting this kind of classic spin on it where, it might still be something similar to, a traditional pilsner, but it also is even going even more traditional to go like back to these classic styles. I think that would be really cool to see.
And even regional too, right? So like I know there's a brewery in Austin did like a South African lager, I want to say.
Oh, cool.
It's different.
Yeah.
It tastes like a lager, but it's different.
That's awesome.
well, we got to make sure somebody's going to brew that Zeugel beer.
Zeugel beer.
Got to have
All
a
right.
Zeugel.
Iain, it's been a pleasure having you. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, we just launched our blog page on the Brewvana's website. So we're going to be writing about all the brews less traveled cities that we visit from here on out on there, and they're going to include tips on great little afternoons to spend, sort of the best breweries where you can find certain types of beer. If you want to gram yourself, we're going to try and include some awesome places to tag yourself on the gram. So please check that out. I think it's going to be a great resource for our members that want to like learn more about the cities that we're going to.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's a great blog. There's some really good information. And those of you who are going to still be with us next month, which I hope most of you, all of you will be, we'll give you more information, each month about these cities that we're visiting and that we're taking you to give you more of that kind of insider local information for everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, folks, that's it from me. Be sure to tune in next week as we introduce you to your new permanent Brews Less Traveled host. Some of you may recognize this person from certain holiday beer box events. That's all I'm going to say about it. And we'll take you to a city that is sure to be a fun stop on our craft beer road trip. In fact, not only, hints for the next city, Kit Kat, not only does it have more boulevards than Paris and a city park twice the size of Central Park, it also completely ignored prohibition. So we know its beer scene has to be out of this world. We can't wait to bring you there next week. Cheers, everyone.
Prost.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.